Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Edge of the Earth review. Today, we're going to be talking about the rogue cards from the Edge of the Earth player expansion, or investigator expansion. So that means everyone, you know what to do. Clap your hands together. Everyone go in the comments and say, we're excited for Bryn week, because we're talking about the green cards. And let's see how the rogue class fared this expansion. And we're going to start right away with an absolute banger question mark, 21 or bust. This is a 2-cost Fortune Gambit event that commits for a fist and a foot. One at a time, reveal random tokens from the Chaos Bag until you choose to stop. Treat each skull, cultist, tablet, or squid as a 5. The autofail is a 10, and the Elder Sign is either a 1 or an 11. If the combined value of those tokens, ignoring plus minus, is 18 or less, you gain 4, 19 you gain 5, 20 you gain 6, and 21 you get 9 resources. Bryn, what do you think of 21 or bust?
This casino is able to stay afloat. Like, they're clearly stupid and paying out far too much in their card games. That being said, most of the time this card is just kind of like bad emergency cash, and sometimes a little better.
Yeah.
You know, it does have, there is not a whole lot of level 0 green economy. That kind of doesn't really exist. So this is probably pretty solid in, early on in a deck, particularly a big money deck where you want that kind of thing.
I was shocked at first, but then I was like, yeah, I guess that really there's like Faustian bargain, and then as like
Yeah,
you
that's
upgrade, like when
That's
you
it.
grab your easy marks, you replace this with those. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't very many level 0. Like you get one level 0 option and it's like that's it. Until this.
Have you hit a 20? Have you got a 21 with this?
I have never played with this.
Oh. My best was a 19, and
Yeah.
I was like, all right, guess I'm stopping.
Coward.
It's like, I mean, you have to put 2 down, which makes sense because you are gambling, right? But still, it's just like, oh my god. It'll find a home in a lot of my big money green decks, but I think beyond outside of that, it's more fun and exciting than it is actually like good and consistent. But I mean, you can tell you're gambling. It's not supposed to be good and consistent.
I still think it's like pretty okay though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not upset if someone plays it. In fact, I get pretty excited if someone would play this. I'd be like, okay, let's see what happens. And then you convince them to hit at 20 and then they bust. Or they hit at 19 and then they bust. And you're like, well, haha, sucks to be you. All right. Next one here is we got Black Market. This is a 1-cost favor event that's 2 experience. Fast. Play at the start of the investigation phase. One at a time, reveal cards from the top of any investigator's decks until exactly 5 cards have been revealed. Set these cards aside out of play. While set aside, any investigator may play any of those cards as if they were in their hand. At the start of the next investigation phase, shuffle each of those cards still set aside into its owner's deck. So, when we first talked about this card, we kind of just wrote it off as a meme card. But I think the card's actually pretty good. Like, it's essentially just a draw 5 for a turn, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Like if there were to be a 1-costed fast draw 3, like that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
This is 1-costed fast, almost a draw 5. Like you don't really get to draw them, but you almost do.
Yeah.
And they can be anybody's, and you can allow people to gain access to things they're not supposed to have.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like when we played it today, we effectively played at least 3 cards off each of them, right? So like, yeah, it's effectively just a 1 draw 3, but it's like it could be more than that.
Yeah, you can use this to give other players dogs out of your deck,
Yep, yep.
so then they can have a ton of sled dogs.
And I think obviously as well, it needs like some sort of like if you're playing it, you can't just like do it willy nilly. Like if like the person you're sitting across from is playing like a Silas, you're not going to give them it, right? Like you're like, because then like it can't do skills because it's play, not commit. as far as I'm aware. But like, if there's any assets that are important in someone's deck, especially on turn 1, like this can be huge to get someone set up.
Yeah, the only time I've ever considered mulliganing this away is when I have to.
Yep. Yeah, that's
And
fair,
even
yeah.
then, it's kind of just like, yeah, all right, let's do it. First
Yeah.
one, then t'other.
Yeah, because if you see like a Faustian bargain in a black market, you're like, all right, now we're going.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
No, it's kind of nice that it's not just a meme card. Like, it's actually just, like, good. All right. Next up, we got Cheat the System. This is a 0-cost, 1-experience trick synergy event that commits for a book and a foot. Fast. Play during any lightning window. Gain 1 resource for each different class among cards you control. Any thoughts on this one?
Card's kind of garbage.
Yeah.
I generally don't really like the synergy cards, but
like this one's like, we had the Guardian one and the Seeker one, which were both like good effects even if you didn't have full synergy. But this one, like, you need to have 3 to basically just pay 1 for a fast emergency cash, which I mean, like, is that really worth it?
I mean, I would always pay 1 XP if I made my thing fast instead of not fast.
But then, like, it's one of those things where, like, it's not an insurance, right? Because you need to actually have those other classes out there to make sure it actually hits.
Yeah. I mean, I think this card is solid if you have to. Like, not incredible, but fine. It is actually just the baseline trade of like 1 card for 2 resources.
Yep.
With obviously a single card is worth more than a resource, but probably not worth more than 2.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I suppose, like if you hit 3 and like you want to just like be going through your deck really quick, you want to play a bunch of things, cycle through, like this could get you a lot of value over the game, especially later on, right? For me, it doesn't excite me, but I can see maybe somebody doing something with this, and I'm like, that seems like a lot of setup to get 3 resources, but I'm happy for you. Yeah.
Ula Santiago? This is like deduction.
It is.
But different.
It's like deduction, but different. It's true. We just have to look at all cards like that, and then we're like, whoa, that's crazy. All right. Up next, I know Travis likes this card. We got Counter Espionage. This is a 2-cost, 1-experience favor service event that commits for Guts. Brain. Fast. Play when you draw a non-weakness treachery. Cancel that card's revelation effect and draw the top card of the encounter deck. As a reaction, when you play Counter Espionage, increase its cost by 2. Change the encounter deck to your deck. When you play Counter Espionage, increase the cost by 2 to change you to any investigator. So for 4, you can change your encounter card with the top card of your deck. If it's 6, you can have someone else do that. Otherwise, you could also do 4 to have someone else just replace their card with something else, which if you have the money and it gets rid of an Ancient Evils that can like cause you to lose the game, still a fair trade. Travis, you like this one, right?
Yeah, I think this card's really good. Yeah, I mean, like, so it's 2 for a 1-time 9 rods effect, and then it's 4 to just draw one of your cards instead. That's really good. And if you really need, like, someone draws an Ancient Eels or something that would gorp them, you can give it to someone else for an extra 2.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too that you're going to be sitting on cash.
It's just a very
Yeah, and you'll be sitting on. You don't need to like. This isn't something that's like exclusively you need to do in just big money decks, right? Even like the worst case, like the floor of this card of just being change your encounter card to something else could be a game changing turn for you.
Yeah, you play this one and you turn your not very threatening encounter card into a different one and find a worse one, so then you can play you handle this one.
Yeah.
Give it away.
Yeah. Whoops.
I love it.
Whoops.
No, but green has a very difficult time getting rid of things like Frozen in Fear. And this just does it for 2 money. So it's not bad.
I also like the green feeling of it, of just being like, nah, you take your card, I'll take you keep your card, I'll take my own, right? It feels very much like, no, I'll do this my way for this. If you have the money, you can make anything happen.
You play this in a big money Safina Rousseau deck, and you're just like several turns in a row, like, nah, I'll just
draw that'd be sick. Oh, I happened to draw the painting one, or a painted world, off of my counter espionage. How nice!
Jeez, if only there were some way for the game to have stopped that from happening.
If only. All right, next one here is Money Talks. This is the upgraded. It's a 0-cost level 2 favor gambit event that commits for a wild. Fast. Play when an investigator at any location initiates a skill test. Instead of the skill type indicated for this test, this is a resource skill test. The performing investigator's base skill for this test is equal to half the number of resources in your resource pool, rounded down, and then you get to draw a card. Bryn, in a big money deck, because that's obviously where you want this card, how big of an upgrade is this from the original?
I mean, like, you get to use it to make anybody do it, firstly, which is kind of big. Drawing a card is just gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also use it in not a big money deck, but, to grief your friends.
You could, yeah.
They're like, I'm going to do this thing. My brain is 6, and you're like, your value is 0. So half of 1 is 0.
I mean, like,
I draw a card, though.
Like, in a way, this is essentially just like a sick kind of, just pass this test, my friend. Pass it. And being it outside of you is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think this one occupies similar headspace to, like, the level 2 Ward of Protection, where, like, if you want the level 0 one, you only want the level 2 if you're playing with more than 2 people.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, it doesn't really do that much different.
Yeah,
drawing a card is nice, but
yeah, it replacing itself is not worth to experience early on, because green has, as you are going to see, expensive cards experience-wise.
We got cooler stuff in this pack.
Yeah.
Not just in general.
I like the mental image of Preston being like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll help you with this," as he's just like, "Oh, baby can't pass a test, huh?" Worry not, Preston's here. Really not much to say about this one. It's just a good upgrade, and if you're playing multiplayer, like 3 or more players, it becomes more valuable. All right, Moxie. We've talked about these composures a bunch, so this is also probably going to go pretty quick. This is 0-cost, 3 experience talent composure. Commits for brain, foot. It's fast, and you can only have 1 composure in play. You get +1 brain and +1 foot. Non-direct damage and or horror must be assigned to Moxie before it can be assigned to your investigator card. His lightning bolt, spend 1 resource, you get +1 foot and +1 brain, or +1 brain for this skill test. Travis, how do you think this one compares to the other composures?
I think this one is very good. It gives you both defensive stats.
Yep. Which most often will help keep it alive, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
In green, sometimes foot is an offensive stat as well.
It is, yeah. And you also have money in green. So, like, this one's going to be pretty easy to help you when you need it, to give you that extra boost.
Yeah, you get to show up and draw cards off the encounter deck, and you're like, I have 3 money and no brain. Why couldn't I have 3 brain and no money?
Yeah.
This card just lets you do that.
Yeah, I liked this one. This was probably one of my... I like this one a lot, even just when they were just level 1 Moxies, and it's just even juicier right now.
I just like saying you got Moxie, kid.
Oh, hell yeah. If you said that to me after I played it, I'd be like, oh, yes. Now I know Bryn will never do that, but that's okay. You got shit mouth, kid. Fuck. All right. Next up here is we got Savant. This is one experience, innate developed skill that commits for a wild. Savant gains wild icons equal to your lowest skill other than the skill being tested. I think this card is really good in green.
I think it's also really good outside of green in like the characters who can play it. But yeah, like in green, you're probably using this as guts.
Yep. Yeah.
And if it's guts, it's better than guts now because all of your numbers that aren't, well, unless you're Preston, but if you're Preston, you shouldn't be playing Skip.
Yep.
That's a conversation for a different day.
Yeah. Preston is not included in this conversation we're having.
No. But everybody else, you've got more than one in all your numbers that aren't Brain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even if oh, sorry, you go, Bryn.
If you're Jenny Barnes, this is even better.
Yeah, so
it's just a promise of power, but you have to play AXP for it because we're green and our cards are kind of bad.
Yeah. Even if like you just have 2 in your other stat, this just adds 3 to that test, right? So like even then, just baseline, like this will get you through most likely through Frozen in Fear. If you have any sort of thing, and I know someone we said Preston won't, you'd be like, but Dark Horse Preston, you can get +3 on it. It's incredible. Even then, like that's not probably worth it. But I think in like most other investigators that can run this, Savant is a really nice card. Any other thoughts on it, Travis?
It's good if you want to use it as protection for your brain, but that's about all it's kind of good for, in my opinion. Because if you want to protect your brain, for most green investigators who have one brain, it's only an unexpected courage for your other stats. But it's probably quite a bit more for your brain, which is, I mean, if your next lowest is a 3 that gives you 4 symbols, put it up to 5, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think outside of brain, it's kind of just context for like what your brain is. Like, as Bryn said, in Jenny, this card's really nice. Like, in Jenny, I'd say this is pretty much an auto-include. Just a promise of power for one experience.
Yeah, promise of power, but, like, you don't have to pay for it, ever. In any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the card's nice, and it'll find a home in a lot more green decks, and I think it'll do, like, it'll do more than what it seems like it's going to do when you actually try it out. It's going to help you out.
Yeah, I think the flexibility of being able to throw it as like an unexpected courage at other tests is pretty big for green because sometimes you've got to be trying to pass your tests by 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sick. Okay, next up, we got Scout Ahead. This is a 1-cost insight trick event that commits for 2 foot. Move up to 3 times and enemies do not engage you during this movement. I'm curious what you guys think of this one, so because I've obviously, like, the card reads really nice, and it's going to have its moments where it shines, but I've been a lot less impressed by this card in practice than I thought it was going to be.
I think the real
pretty okay for me.
I think the real thing it's got going for it is the fact that it commits for 2 foot. So, like, if you're in a scenario where moving 3 times is not good,
it still does something.
Then, like, hey, whatever. It's a manual dex. You're green. You'll find a way to use it. But if you are in a scenario where moving 3 times is good, this is going to be the best card you've ever drawn.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's a good point. Like, this basically just kind of, for me in my mind, kind of just obsoletes manual decks because I think the flexibility of having to move 3 times is probably better than just having to replace itself. Green can, like, get cards pretty quick with Lucky Cigarette Case. Yeah, maybe I just what's keeping me down about it and like how I wasn't impressed is just because I thought the ceiling was just so high and I was like, this card's gonna be incredible. This is basically just shortcut, but like it's I think my thought for the card was too high, and I think it's probably, as Travis was saying, I think it's just like it's probably still just been performing and functional. It's like, okay, that 2 foot is good, and I'm just like still like have this weird fantasy in my head about it.
Yeah, I bet you this one's real good in Tony.
Yep. Yeah. Just move to a monster.
Where you're just sort of like, I was over there, now I'm here. Now you're dead.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, like I'm gonna just go grab my quarry. See you guys in a bit.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah. Obviously, also like other big movement cards, like very campaign dependent too, right? Like there's gonna be campaigns where this is really good. Like this is probably good in the Asylum, right?
Hmm. Probably a tank in Innsmouth.
Yep, probably. Yeah, and as you're saying, Bryn, just having 2 foot is not ever a bad thing.
Yeah, if you can't find a way to make foot icons work in your green deck, it's because you're playing like Monterey Jack or something, and he's not really a green character. He just has 5 foot.
Yeah.
He's a yellow character. Or Preston, and you're just failing all your tests anyway. It doesn't matter how good you make your numbers. It's like kind of not a good plan.
Yeah, like maybe this is even just a card that can like live as a one of in the future, right? It's not something you need all the time, but when you draw it, you just keep it for when the moment comes. Interesting. Okay, what do we got next? Ooh, the Black Fan, the symbol of power. This is a 3-cost, 3-experience item relic asset that commits for a book, a foot, and a wild. Takes up a hand slot, and it's exceptional, so it really costs 6 XP. While you have 10 or more resources, you get +1 health and sanity. While you have 15 or more resources, you may take 1 additional action during your turn. And when you have 20 or more resources, you get +1 to each of your skills. Obviously, Big Money wants this because the reverse Dark Horse, the anti-Justin. I mean, like, I haven't played with this card yet, but the card, like, in theory, do we think it's worth 6 XP for what it does? Probably.
Yeah, I think it's like a little bit on the narrow side
Mm-hmm.
because there's only one archetype that could ever want this.
Yeah.
But in that archetype, it's probably good. In that archetype, if you have less than 20 resources, you're not really playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm playing a Jenny Barnes run, giving her another shot. My opinion on her has not changed. She is still pretty poopy. However, I was like, I'm going to do a big money Jenny deck. It's going to be great. And then I got a random weakness halfway through the campaign, right before I started upgrading into it, and it was the one where you discard all your resources. So I was like, okay, we're going to shift it to a spending money Jenny deck. Because I was like, I'm going to get the Black Fan. It's going to be sick because I can like talk about it and be like, yeah, this card's actually good. But I don't know. Yeah, just in the big money deck, this card, it lives there and it really lives nowhere else because for 10 resources, +1 health and +1 sanity is not worth it. We're not giving you that at 1 experience for the tarot card. Like, it's not worth it for 6. 6 and 13 resources.
Dario's starting to look pretty good.
Yeah, because really this doesn't take off until you get the additional action, and that requires you effectively to have 18 resources. Which in theory isn't, like, as you said, if you're not at 20 in that archetype, like, what are you doing? But...
Yeah, it probably means something weird happened to you, like you got paranoia as your weakness.
Yeah.
Which, as an aside, I think that is the place that investments lives.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
To
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Is when you end up with that as your random weakness playing big money.
Buy an
Or as a
adaptable
random
and put some
weakness.
investments in.
Yeah, so you sit on them at 10 and you're like, cool, when the game makes me throw it all away, I'll just have one.
Oh, yeah, that's very fair. Yeah. That's why you're the resident rogue expert, because I was like, I'm done. I'm retire this character. Send her in the blender. Yeah.
Give me level 0 Wendy instead.
All right. It's the red clock. So, we got... I know everyone in YouTube is like, oh, the red clock. They love this card. Everyone online. They just... In our Discord, on YouTube, on Twitch, they love the clock. So, the red clock, level 2. 2-cost asset item relic takes up the accessory slot, commits for a wild. It's exceptional, so it costs 4. It has uses 0 charges. Forced, after turn begins, either place 1 charge here or take all charges here as resources. Then if it has exactly 1 charge, you get +3 skill value for your next skill test. 2 charges, you may move up to 2 times. 3 charges, you may take an additional action this turn. The level 5 commits for 2 wild, still costs 2, and it's exceptional, so it really costs you 10. Use is 0 charges. The big difference is after your turn begins, you may take all charges here as resources and then place 1 charge here. So it's basically just like it speeds up the process. Then at 1 charge you get +4. 2 charges you may move 3 times. 3 charges you may take 2 additional actions this turn, not move actions, just any action you want. Bryn, what do you think of the clock?
So like I think it's really sick, but also, and I hate to admit this, but everything that it does you can do for half the XP in yellow.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
And I don't like that. I will say the level 5 one is sweet.
Yeah.
The huge difference here is that because it's the level 2 one is either place a charge or take all the charges here, and this is first one, then the other. That means you can just sit on 1 charge and just be like, cool, first thing I do every turn, +4, let's go.
Yes.
Until it's good for you to move twice or 3 times. And then if it is, do that. Then take a bunch of extra actions the next turn, because what's better than almost an entire extra turn?
Yeah, like for me, I don't because this is something that even Travis has brought up, and I'm going to ask him about this, his thoughts on it. But like, it's the level 5 version does not feel worth 10 XP to me. However, with that said, I'm pretty confident that if you get it out on turn 1, you're gonna win the game, because the just +4 for your first skill test every turn for the rest of the game is probably gonna do it for you, because then you're not gonna fall apart. You can use the like other things to get other things ready, so then your tests after that are really good. And I think this is more of the things that I think that this card is like overcosted. And I think what ultimately it is what you're saying, Bryn. I think the Profana is undercosted as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that like this card's sick and it feels very good to play with. Like it feels great when it's out. But I think just in comparison to the Profana, it's just like, well, Seeker can do this for cheaper.
This is the truth.
What do you think, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, power level wise, it's probably worth the 10 XP.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, like, you only get 1 copy of it. You have to front load 10 XP, so like realistically, like a third to a quarter of your campaign's XP is in this 1 card.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, you could, yeah, if you get early in the game, you're probably gonna do real well.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what your deck is trying to do, kind of. Yeah, but like, Profana is definitely undercosted. I mean, Profana kind of doesn't matter what it's cost at, in my opinion, for like what it does.
Yeah.
This one at least is like fair. Like, yeah, it's weird that it's not quite worth the 10 experience. I agree, but I'm not really sure what else they could cost that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's worth more than 8.
Yeah,
But
and
maybe
I
not
agree. They
quite
could
10.
get on turn 1. Sorry, go ahead, Bryn.
Sorry, it's
More
just
than
it's worth more than 8, but probably not quite 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like if you get on turn 1, you're probably gonna maybe not win the scenario, but like but that's also like not really a fun play pattern to me, is to dump all your experience to this and then just hope you draw it at the start of the game.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a good plan to have going into games.
Yeah, for me, like, I think this one, if there was a time where I'd buy the red clock, I would do it in, like, Dream Eaters, where you get, like, 12 experience on the first scenario, and you can be like, here's my clock. Here's my black market to find it, right? But, yeah, it's so much for an effect that's, like, obviously good, but you need to find it, you need to play it, and then if you draw it late, you're like, yay, my clock's finally here. It's a lot. And, like, like even just comparing the Profana, which is like a relic and a tome, like two traits that are so easy to find, right? And you could do that in green, but like, can you? Like, you can, like, if you can splash Widden, you can find relics, like Ellie, or whatever her name is, Ellie Horowitz. But even then, it's just like, what are other ways to find this guy in comparison to what Seeker has in Profana? Backpack, yep, backpack.
If you can play blue cards, you can play Tetsuo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like black market, I guess.
So yeah, like, the card's obviously good. It's obviously high XP, so you're gonna have to load a lot into this. And also, like, the slowness of the level 2 one kind of just makes me not want to play it. After you've played with the speed on the level 5 one, you're like, give me that speed all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, the level 2 one is pretty much to me just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, I suppose I can't legally play the level 5 one.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want this effect for reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like how, as a huge XP payoff, it is good in every rogue archetype.
Yep.
Like, just all of them.
Yeah.
There is not an archetype where this card is bad. It does something for each one of them. And that is kind of sweet.
Yeah, definitely. That's very fair. The Red Clock. What do you think, YouTube? Give us your thoughts on this one. I mean, obviously, like, there's also, like, you can do things with, like, Eldritch Sophist. There's those things you can do to put it on the Eon chart and stuff like that. It's basically a non-stop charge thing that you can do. Like, I know that there's those combos exist, but those don't really, for me, like, I like to look at just, like, where the card sits. Who can play it? I don't want to think about, I can break it with 3 other cards. That's not really me. Cool. All right. Underworld Support. This is an asset that's permanent. It's favor and an illicit. Limit 1 per deck. Purchase a deck creation. Your deck cannot include more than 1 copy of each non-weakness, non-signature card by title, and reduce your deck size by 5. Travis, I'm curious what you think of this one.
I think this card's garbage.
So sick. Bryn, what about you?
This card just lets you draw 5 cards to find your red clock.
Yeah.
That is like the use for it.
I'll be real. I've been playing a lot of Underworld support decks lately, and I actually have not noticed the lack of consistency.
That's fair.
But I don't think it's the right choice all the time. I'm just kind of in this process where I'm like experimenting with it a bunch, and like the decks probably could be better without it. But it surprises me how not and how much it doesn't kill the consistency. However, I think that you don't want to just build an Underworld support deck to just build it. I think you want to build an Underworld support deck that can take advantage of it. So, for example, parallel skids and exceptional items means you're probably going to hit your card in your mulligan, right? A fun thing, there's a deck that I'm playing right now that has Zoe, and you can use your stick to the plan, so you effectively just start with like 21 cards in your deck, right? To make your deck just really small and change that the one-ups to consistency. And I think right now a lot of people look at like, oh, this card's fun, but I think it's going to be better when you can take advantage of it with other contributing factors.
If you play this card in Wendy, so then you can kill yourself faster.
That seems good.
Smaller deck.
Yep.
Better windows for
that's
Abandoned and Alone to just gimp your deck.
Yeah, you just like screw yourself up playing one of the best cards you can, Glimmer of Hope.
Yeah. We'll just play it as a one-of. Then you can just grab it back.
Yeah.
Pay 1. Value, baby!
Oh.
Man, Glimmer of Hope, yeah, no. Just as an aside, Glimmer of Hope, that card, I've also been like playing with it a bunch lately. That card's just chef's kiss, man. That card's incredible. Such good design.
Justin, you can play this card in Jim Culver.
You can. I've not done
And
that
it
yet because
won't
I'm
make a
trying
difference.
to.
It probably won't make a difference.
I'm trying to listen to you guys and stay away from Jim. So you guys have been very healthy for me. So thank you. Anytime I'm like, maybe a Jim deck, I hear you guys being like, "Don't do it. Respect yourself."
This guy sucks.
I think we have one card left. It's this untimely transaction. This is 0 cost, 1 experience, favor event that commits for a wild. Reveal an item asset in your hand. Another investigator location may play that asset as if it was in their hand. If they do, draw 1 card and gain resources equal to that asset's printed cost. This one is still a meme, right? Like, this one's just still not great?
Maybe. I mean, I think it depends entirely what you're selling and to who.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in the Edge of the Earth campaign that we're going to finish one day.
One day.
I promise. I'm probably going to buy these for the express purpose of selling a certain martial artist.
A certain shotgun.
Yeah. Some American kung fu techniques.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing from you though, Bryn, is I still feel like, oh yeah, that's memey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like there are things that I think can be very good to sell to some characters. Like there are some characters who are balanced by the fact that they don't get access to a certain type of thing.
Yeah.
And you can just show up and be like, hey, but what if you did?
Yeah. That's fair.
Like I know you're not allowed to buy good weapons because you belong to X color, but like, what if you could? What if you could buy this Mauser right now?
And Wendy's like, what do you mean? I can buy that anyway. He's like, take the gun, little girl. Take the gun. Yeah, I'm curious because I do agree that in this deck in Edge of the Earth, it does have a nice home there. And I guess I imagine like seeing like where that comes in. I could see myself never playing this, but I could definitely see you bringing this one a lot as a surprise to being like, hey, Justin, do you want to buy this? And I'll be like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll take that. That sounds great.
Yeah, the part I'm worried about is that if I bring it and I'm like, hey, Travis, you want to buy this? And he's just going to be like, no, I brought my own card.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh,
I want to play that. I'd play it.
Yeah. And Bryn's like, oh, frick. Yeah, because they
Wow,
don't
that's
have
not
to
great.
play it. That's
yeah,
so
they don't have to.
incredible. All right.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a window where this card might be good. But yeah,
Well, I'm excited to see what you do with it, Bryn, because maybe one day you'll sell me a gold pocket watch for some reason. I'll be like, ooh.
I don't have a relic slot available. You want this?
They're like, ooh, no. Sick. All right. Well, those are the rogue cards from Edge of the Earth. There's some nice stuff in there. It's exciting to see the difference in our thoughts from how when we first did our review video for our initial thoughts on them when we read through all the cards to where they are now. Seeing how they've changed, and especially to me, my biggest winner is the black market. I think that card is the nice surprise in the green pack here. Patrons, thank you so much for supporting the channel. You guys all rock. If you want to join the Patreon page, you can find it down in the description. Everyone on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think. What cards have impressed you? What cards haven't impressed you? What do you think of our thoughts on the cards? Is there anything you want to add onto that? Or maybe like, just give us your opinions. What do you think of the red clock? Are you as excited about it as everyone else is? Let us know in the comments and like this video. It helps push us up the YouTube algorithm. Then the YouTube bot goes more ARKHAM, and everyone's happy. Thank you so much. Have a good one. And as always, GG's.